Hi, welcome to Netta B's On It. I'm Netta B, and
And I am Deb Mendoza.
hi, Deb. I want to just thank you so much for coming on here with me today. I know today we're going to be talking about dealing with the challenges of losing a loved one. It could be through COVID, it can be through any other experiences. We've all lost loved ones, and I know it can be a challenge. So, thank you again for being here. I so much appreciate it.
Thanks for having me.
Let's get a little bit background about you and a little bit about the loved one we're going to be talking about that you had to deal with.
Okay, yeah, absolutely. I recently lost my mom to COVID, and so that was when Ned and I talked about that before. It helped me to process more of that with mom passing. Um, it's been about a month and a half now, and the range of emotions that I have gone through have been sometimes hard to even identify at times. So that's basically it. We're just going to talk about mom and kind of some of the processes that we go through and I've gone through.
Yeah. Yeah, when you're talking about going through a process, I lost my mom as well. Not my biological mother, but mother who was really intricate in, my teenage years of growing up. And it's a challenge. It's hard. So let's get into some of the questions that I have for you. Can you describe how your mom influenced your life as a child and growing up into your mature grown years?
Well, I'm not mature.
Yes, you are. You're just mature.
Smarty pants. But my mom, well, I guess I should start by saying I'm adopted. And so that actually does kind of play a part in my relationship with my mom. We were very different people, and she often said to me, "I don't understand you," and I think that for her, she was kind of thinking that was maybe something that was genetic. I'm not sure, but that was something that was a struggle for her, a struggle for me. But regardless of those things, she was my mom. I loved her desperately, and she was really my only mom. I have been very blessed to have met my biological mom, and that also kind of plays a part in some of this processing. There's a lot of guilt. I feel very, very guilty.
Guilty of
Guilty
what?
because my mom was so sick. Um, but she knew that I had already met my biological mom. And I think that there were times when my mom felt like, I think she was afraid that I wanted a different parent. But so then, then when my mom was passing away and I had a very hard time talking to Estelle, my biological mom. I felt guilty if I talked to her, because I was thinking my mom is probably laying in this bed thinking she can't wait for me to die, and she's going to go run off with another mom. But that is part of the dynamic that happened at times with us, even though that was never what I wanted. That was just growing through.
Oh, wow.
So that was always kind of a tough thing, but we got through it. But I did end up having a pretty decent amount of guilt, and I stepped back from my relationship with Estelle for a bit during
Oh,
that time.
really?
I still talk to her on a regular basis, but not every single day like I have been. And I was upfront with her about that too, and she was understanding and accepting of that as well. But growing up, my mom was an educator, so she was a science teacher, so everything was really regimented. Um, Mom was about not quitting, pushing forward even when you don't want to. One of the things that she said to me a lot as I was growing up was, sometimes we have to do stuff we don't want to do. And that used to make me so mad. And when mom was sick, I know I said that at one point to her, and she flashed this look at me like, I swear to God. And I'm like, I'm sorry that you taught me that. It's true. Sometimes we have to do things we don't want to do.
True.
But a lot of integrity, a lot of honesty, and a lot of love, as much unconditional love as any child could get. is what is what we got. We were very, very blessed.
So you were adopted, and then
Mhm.
you have a sibling as well?
Yes, yeah, I'm adopted, and I have actually I have got, there are six of us. I have five half siblings, four that are still with us. And then that's just on my biological mom's side. Then there were siblings on the paternal side as well, but I
Oh,
don't know them at all. So
okay.
yeah, but growing up, I never wanted a different family. I always knew I was adopted, and I loved that
Mhm.
because I felt really special. I think there's a lot of people that go through life growing up knowing that they're adopted and they feel rejection. And I've never felt rejected, ever. Um,
And you grew up in a good home.
yeah, I grew up in a really good home. One of the things that I always wanted to say to my biological mom, if I ever met her, was thank you.
Mhm.
Said, you did something for me I don't know that I could have done. I can't imagine, I've had two children. I can't imagine going all the way through and leaving the hospital without that child. So I was very blessed to have been chosen to live in the home that I was raised in, by the parents that I was raised with.
Nice.
My biological mom gave me life. My mom gave me a life,
Mm.
and
Oh, I
that
love that.
yeah, and that's very much how it has always been, and how I've always appreciated it
Mm.
to be and been blessed. We always celebrated that we were adopted. That was a wonderful thing. Because a lot of kids aren't that lucky.
Right. Yeah.
So
Wow. You okay?
yep, I'm good. Yep.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm good. I'm good. Yeah.
I was gonna bring tissue, but I
No,
know.
I'm good. I'm good. Yeah. Sometimes it's just kind of processing through some of it. I'm pretty solid though.
Sometimes when you say it, you're like, wow.
Yeah. Yes. Yeah. Absolutely.
It's real. I've lived the life. I've lived through this life. It's actually real.
Yes.
I love what you said, that your biological mother gave you life, but your mom
Yep.
gave you a life
Yes.
to live and actually went through it. So with that being said, how would you describe the steps leading from the onset of diagnosis, from your mom, and then having to prepare
Yes. For
yourself
her.
through a homegoing?
Right.
So I know a lot of people right now are going through these types of things. Some people are on the cusp of not knowing if they have to, if they don't, because maybe they may have someone sick, they may have someone in their family that they need to, that may not be faring well. And now they're trying to figure out, okay, what are my next steps?
Yes.
Is there some things you can help others with on how you went through your steps?
Sure. I think for us, well, my mom had leukemia originally. She had battled leukemia for several years and had beat it. But we were already in a fight mode. Because we were going to fight really hard against this leukemia, and she fought so hard, but we fought as a family. And then she was given the diagnosis 2 weeks after she was told that her leukemia was now in remission, and then she found out that she had COVID.
So she did have COVID.
Yes. So COVID was what took her ultimately. And COVID is different. It actually is different for a lot of folks. Mom's COVID settled in her stomach, and that it caused she had such pain that she couldn't eat, and so that became the new battle. She was in the hospital for a while. Then she was able to come home, but she couldn't eat, and so I'm watching this happen as mentally she's not there anymore. She had changed so much and was so dehydrated that a lot of times she said stuff that didn't make sense. My dad was really confused, and it got to a point when I realized we're not going to beat this. We beat leukemia, but this one we can't beat. We knew that. We tried absolutely everything. And so for me, it was about being honest with myself about what I was seeing and not trying to grasp at straws or, do things that are just to prolong her life so that I didn't have to leave. I didn't have to lose her. Um, she was very sick and it was time to let go. And that's a hard thing for people to get to. Um,
Right, letting go.
yeah, exactly. To get to that place where you say, okay, I see that that is what we have here. We have done everything that we could do. Um, and that came with a lot of tears and a lot of prayer.
So when you said that she said things that that she probably didn't mean to say, and she would
Right.
say it because she's hurting, or I don't know. I just don't.
Yeah.
I don't get. At that point in time in your life, you just, I guess, just lashing out.
Yeah.
Did you ever like emotionally? Did it emotionally drain you, or how did you? Yeah, I was wondering, how did you
Yeah.
prepare yourself for the next thing that might come out her mouth?
Right.
Like, how did you deal with that?
Um, Once mom was at a point where she was at that point where she wasn't making a lot of sense, or she was acting in a way that was very unlike her. I mean, she actually became physical and like would hit us.
Mhm.
And it was a shock at first. Um, but I felt a lot like I was dealing with somebody that was very, very young. And so I
Mhm.
wasn't going to get mad at her.
Mhm.
It was almost like she didn't know better.
Mhm.
And at first it was a shock. And then it's just the acceptance of that is what this is right now. She's very, very sick. She's very dehydrated. And the doctors all told us that these are the things that happen. These are, you hear about certain things that happen when people die. That isn't one of them that I had ever heard before. How your loved one can become like physically lash out at you or start to say words that they have never said before and act in a way that is so very different. Um, so in a way, you almost begin to lose that person um, well before
Mhm.
she actually said goodbye and was gone.
Mhm.
I felt like I was just like she was already almost gone for quite some time because she just wasn't herself anymore. Um, it was about just being really, really honest with myself and my brother and my dad about this is really what we have here, and we can't. Um, it's not going to change. We have to just accept that that's what this is. We have fought really hard.
Not everybody accepts.
Right.
And so when that you get both of them accept right away, or how did that process go with you having to um, have that conversation with them, and then their reaction and what their actions were?
Mhm.
Because sometimes people do different
Yes.
things, and they make you want to, you know.
Yes, that was very frustrating because I do believe I know I accepted it before my dad and my brother. Um, Ironically, uh, not even necessarily ironically, but my oldest daughter is a nurse. She was a nurse in a COVID unit,
Mhm.
and she was the one that really took me by the hand on that and said, "This is where we're at." She said, "I saw her when she came home from the hospital, and I knew that we weren't going to be able to save her."
Mhm.
And so that propped me up um, because she was validating what I was saying as well, and I knew I could trust her because this was her job. She saw this every day, um, and so that part of it really was led initially by her. And she took the initiative to also speak to my dad and my brother separately about that and saying, you need to start preparing yourself because this is where we're going, you know, so it was kind of a united effort between my daughter and I to gradually bring my dad and my brother into the acceptance piece, but everybody has, yeah, we all grieve differently. We all go through all of those processes differently and at different times. And there were times when it was like, just like she had just, it felt like she had days left to go. And then they would all of a sudden want to do something different. And that's when I would become very frustrated. So you have to accept this, because the more you keep pushing these things, it's just prolonging her pain.
Right,
And who are we doing that for?
right. Oh, and wow, you said that because that's can be a little, you get selfish. We want
Yes,
them
we love
here
them.
with us.
Yes, yeah,
Right.
yeah.
And yeah, unfortunately, I didn't have that opportunity to see uh, my other mother, not my biological mother, but my other mother before she passed.
Yeah.
And I always remember the last thing she told me, when I had to travel, I was going to go see her first before I went on my trip.
Mhm.
And then um, I changed it and said, no, I'll see her after
Yeah.
I come back from the trip. It only been three days, but I didn't know in between those 3 days she would be gone. And I blamed myself so many times for not being there when she left, left this earth, because there was so much I wanted to say.
Yes.
And I wanted to hear what she had to say to me. But I did ask her before I left. I said, Ma, I knew she was sick, but I didn't know it was to that extent. She held that from us. And
Right.
that's one thing. I'm like, why did she do that? I wanted to know. But the last thing she told me, she said, I want you to live your life and live it like I taught you to live it and enjoy it. That means be a woman, be a lady, to enjoy yourself, have as much life as you can. So, with that being said, do you have any last words you think your mom wanted to say to you? Um, I know you said that she was in her mind, but
Right.
before then, did she say anything to you per se of like
Parting wisdom.
parting wisdom or something like
Right.
that?
Yeah. I think my mom told me everything that I needed to know my whole life. I don't feel like it was at that end. I think that for us, it's always been this way for me, with my friends and with my children and my parents, my brother. I want them to, the last thing that they hear me say to them is just getting off the phone, or you're going somewhere, you're leaving your home, I love you. And it was really, really important to me that she heard me say that. And all I looked for before she started to really go downhill, all I ever looked for was, I love you too. That was the only thing I knew, because I knew she gave me everything else, up until that point. I was very blessed to be able to be with her. And I wish that, that you hadn't gone through, that experience that way of losing your mom and not being there. Um, it's a really, really difficult thing, but it felt very sacred to me to be there. That's my experience,
Oh, yeah.
of being there. And I guess towards the end there, it was really important. It became really important for me to be there with her all the time. I didn't want to, I think I'd said before when we were talking, I didn't want to like go out and make a sandwich and come back in and have her be
Right.
gone. And, I'd be like, geez, I didn't need the sandwich that bad. I needed to be here. I wanted her to know. And, I just spent this time those final hours and final days, laying next to her, putting on hymns that she loved, and just talking with her. And I was really, really lucky that I was laying right next to her, and I had my arm over her chest, and I was talking to her and telling her how much I loved her, and that Dad and I were there, and we were gonna. I said, "We'll bring you to the gate. We just can't come in yet. We'll be back. We'll be back." You know what I mean. So she took a couple shallow breaths. My dad was there. And I was really proud of him for that, because it was really hard for him. They were married for 53 years. So it was really tough stuff. So yeah, but she had, she died peacefully, and I couldn't have asked for anything better. One thing that did help me also prepare for her homegoing is, she said to me one time, shortly before she started to really go downhill and become incoherent more often than not. It's like, I got there on the weekend, and they live 2.5 hours north of me, so I was there on weekends. And I got there one night, and she said, I don't think I'm going to survive this. She said, but that's okay, because I know where I'm going. And I said, okay. And that, I think that was a huge piece of permission that she was also kind of giving me of like, it's okay to go ahead and start mourning this. I know that this is what's happened. She's accepted it. So now we can accept it.
Yeah.
Um, and I know we talked to with COVID. Um, COVID is something that we hear about it all day long, every day. It's oftentimes the first thing you hear about, when you turn on the news or
Especially this time, yeah.
right. It's been we're inundated with that at all times. It's affected everyone in such different ways. Um,
Mhm.
for a lot of people, COVID is still something that's on TV, um, on the radio. You don't necessarily know anybody that's gone through it. Um, we are, more and more people are unfortunately, having being touched closer, to that. But once it becomes something that is part of your daily life, um, it's hard to process that you have become part of the statistic.
Mhm.
For me, it was important to kind of bring it back to earth. I started to document by a photograph um, the landscape of my parents' home, how it changed because of COVID. The things that were all of the pill bottles,
Mhm.
the all the medications, all of the additional equipment that was in the home, that was brought in, just to help us help mom. Um, I started to document that stuff by taking photographs of it. It helped me to accept it as well. That was another way that I was able to kind of push myself through that acceptance piece, because here it was. I can't, deny that. And it was an insane amount of medication,
Mhm.
and none of it was working. And that's,
Yeah.
you
And
know,
I think sometimes medication is given to kind of make a person feel like something is helping them. And when it's really not necessarily
mhm.
helping, it's just like a covering it up a little bit, like putting a band-aid on it.
Yeah.
So we talk about, thanks for sharing that, talking
Mhm.
about the steps you took. Let's get into talking about what really happens when people have to actually, now they're past, now it's time to make arrangements.
Yeah, the next part.
The next part is not fun. It's not, let me tell you something. People say that the worst things come out of people when it's a wedding and a funeral.
Yeah, I can see that. I can see that. Yes. Yep.
Because then now you have the family who wants things a certain way. You have this, it's all of this. Could you tell us what you had to do to prepare as far as making arrangements?
Sure.
How was it? Was your mom at home?
Mhm.
Okay, so when she was at home, you passed. How did you get all of this done?
Going. Sure.
Yeah, how did that process go?
The process, I mean, to me, the process began that morning when she passed, and we were lucky because we were able to keep her home with us until 6:30 that evening, which was wonderful. That was really, really good. So we were able to continue to process because she was with us. She still looked really good, um, and then eventually, then when we were ready, we contacted the funeral home and they came to bring her home, to bring her, to the funeral home. And so that was the first step in this next part of the process. And it was the hardest on my dad. Um, and so we were able to um, follow a lot of the things that she wanted to have done. She'd given a list to us. We knew she wanted to be cremated. Um, and a couple nights before the funeral, my dad gave us a letter and that was addressed to my brother and I. And I think he didn't know what was in it, but it was a list of the things that she wanted. Because of COVID, we were not able to do some of the things that she wanted. It was written before COVID had even begun in the United States.
Mhm.
So thankfully we were able to follow some of those things, but some of it was already kind of set up. My dad, went to the funeral home that he had selected. We as a family kind of worked together as far as what we wanted to do for music. And we were also faced with the challenge of we can't have a huge funeral in a huge service, a huge service in a church because, and so, and obviously we didn't want to, ignore that and be like, hey, it doesn't matter. Well, we're here because of this. So, so we had to make some changes, and the funeral home that we used, thankfully, they had live streaming services, and I would imagine probably a lot of them do.
Yeah.
So we were able to go and have have the obituary state, what we were going to be doing for the service, and it was going to be just family, but it was live streamed, and one of the things that people kind of will give other people crap about COVID, as far as, oh, you'll make fun of them for wearing a mask, or you see some of that stuff. Even within our own family, there are people that are still like, no, and they're nervous about that. And so a lot of them came to the funeral home, parked their cars in the parking lot, and then they turned on the live stream. So they were still there, which was really neat.
Okay,
That
that's
was
the first time
really neat.
hearing that.
Yeah.
I've been to one since COVID, and it was a pretty big funeral.
Yeah.
And I believe it wasn't live streamed then. That was like the beginning of COVID, and yeah, it wasn't as live streamed as it is now. It's more streamlined now. Before it was just all over the place. No one knew what to do.
Right.
Some had masks, most of us did, some didn't. It was just craziness. Now everybody's like, oh, should I sit next to this person? Should I walk past this person? It's COVID changed a lot with human interaction. So
absolutely it did.
With your arrangements, I know I didn't have I don't know if yours was more of a even playing. My arrangements for my mom was kind of up and down because it was so much, and I have to say to people, make sure you have life insurance. Make sure you know where your life insurance is for your family member. You all need to have these conversations. I have it with my son. He knows all of my information. My husband knows all of my information. I know all of theirs. We have to know. My mom that's here, my biological mom, we know the code. I know how to do what I need to do. She knows the same thing. Talk to people. A lot of people have no idea, and then they're scared to have that conversation. It's like, oh, I don't want to talk about it. You have to talk about it. It's just common sense to do it. When you were picking like the funeral, I know we talked before and you said something about your mom's spirit might have been over the music. Tell us a little bit about that.
Well, that was the thing that kind of killed me. I picked out the music, and of course, because of COVID, we're not going to all be singing and blasting out into the room. But on her list of things, one of them was, I want plenty of hymns, old time hymns for the congregation to sing. And I was like, well, sorry, I can't help you with that. So the first song that I had selected for the funeral,
congregation, right?
Right, exactly. And so the first song I had selected was one that she personally had at home, Susan Boyle, How Great Thou Art. So that played perfectly, not a problem. Second song was the song I had selected was one that was playing when Mom passed. For me, it was important. So we got to that point, crickets, nothing. And we're looking at the speakers and we're like waiting, there's no music coming out. And I was like, oh, you gotta be kidding me. And so then we just kept going with the service, just like, all right, fine. And then the very last song, Just a Closer Walk with Thee, also just a family favorite. And I found a great version of it by Patsy Cline. It was kind of upbeat. And I loved it. I was excited for that to come on. Nothing. They play it. They go to play it. Nothing. And one of my uncles yells back, he goes, we can sing it. And so we were like, yeah, oh, all right, yeah, whatever. And so then everybody sang and it was wonderful. And, afterwards I was ticked. I was like, how hard is it to just get your song, right? Push the buttons, people. And then I thought about it later and I went, she did this. She wanted to have songs for us to sing. And maybe she really liked Susan Boyle, so she left that one alone. She maybe didn't like the one I picked, so she was like, no.
Nope.
And then the last one, no, all y'all are gonna sing now. So that's the type of thing that those are the moments you look for when you're going through these things.
Yeah.
Is those things that are you still are going to have a lot to laugh about. You're still going to have a lot to smile about. And it doesn't happen every day by any means. And it takes a long time. And I don't think you ever get over it. I think that you get through it.
Yes. A lot of people struggle with getting over it. And
Right.
they think
They don't
that
have to.
one day they're going to wake up and say, oh, I'm over it. It's not. And you just have to know that all the love, like you were saying, growing up, how she gave you, she let you know, had you live. Say that again.
That my biological mom gave me life and my mom gave me
a life. So that means she gave you a life and it's here.
Yes, it is.
It's gonna always be in your heart. And then you living your life so that you can continue to know that you're carrying her as well in your heart.
Yep, absolutely.
And when I think of things that I might want to say or do, which may not be the best thing to do, I think about what my mom would say. She's like, no, you're a lady. Remember that. And it's like, but they said, and boy, I just want to, I could just cuss them out real quick. Just one quick cuss out. Just give me 2.5 seconds and I'll tell them where to go, how to get there. But then it's like, nope.
In 2.5 seconds, you can say something that you can never take back.
Right. And then she's like, nope. And I was like, Ma, I'm trying. I'm trying. So, and those instances, you kind of revert back to what you've been taught.
Yes.
Growing up.
Yeah.
And you said that you had a great life growing up, and then you were able to meet your biological mom. And, that too is something to add to you as well. So you'll never go out of this world not knowing.
Right. Absolutely. And I never expected to find her. And that was an absolutely incredible experience to just realize that not only was she alive, but I had siblings. I knew that I had siblings, but I wasn't, really sure what that really looked like. And I feel like I have been very blessed in the realm of mothers. As a mom myself, also the stuff that my mom bestowed on me, I can bestow on my children. My mom can still live through how I am with my children, and they're grown, but I'm always going to be their mom, and I can continue that legacy that my mom left for us in the process of going through life and guiding your children. Yeah, I've been very lucky.
So I know we talked a little bit about, and I think we have at least about a few minutes left. I want to talk about too how the emotions ran with preparing. We talked about preparing, and I like my whole experience maybe a little different than yours.
Sure,
because I dealt with persons who wanted so much and didn't have nothing to bring to the table to do those things. And I had to be the one to say, hey, think about it. Do we really need all of this? And when we say COVID has changed the way funeral homes kind of deal with their, dealings now, funeral homes we don't have that opportunity to do all of that anymore. So they kind of lost a lot of their business, not a lot, but some of their business on, excess flowers and, the limousines to and from and all this extra stuff they try to, build out. I just tell everybody, be careful because it plays on your emotions and they already know they're in the business of
they have you
having your money. Not saying that all of them are like that, but I'm just saying some of them are not in your best interest. So you have to be cognizant of what is needed and what is not needed.
And there's a lot of times I think too that there are, from, what I've gained through this is there's a lot of times that there are hidden costs that they don't tell you about up
Yeah.
front. And so, funerals are an insanely expensive thing.
Mhm.
So yeah, getting all the information in writing is so important, because yes, your emotions are running high.
Oh, and a lot of people just want to say, just take it, do whatever you need to
Right.
do. I just want this to be done because right now
Yes,
I'm
yeah.
grieving, I'm going through right now. And then,
Mhm.
I had to actually sit there and talk to this funeral man, like, look here, we don't need all that stuff. Why are you trying to give us? Oh, this package gives you this and this package gives you that.
Yeah.
Which one is gonna give us just a little bit
Yeah.
right here so that we can, send her home in a
Yes.
nice, respective way,
Yeah.
without having to get all this extra phenomenal stuff you say will help.
Right, exactly. Yeah. Yeah, you have to, it's very hard because they kind of have you over a barrel because you're in this position. And I think that probably, I can't say for sure, but I would imagine that a lot of funeral homes, when they do finally get that place where they have people, there's a lot of people that are just postponing funerals in general right now. But I think it's very easy for them to push hard. And we had a few, experiences with that particular funeral home that were unnecessary,
Yeah,
and very pushy.
very pushing.
And I think, my dad and my daughter, at the time when we were working with the funeral home, when we were there, they were both very emotional. And I was in a place for a long time where I was kind of just flip the switch. Like when
Don't say
Lauren,
nothing crazy because the switch right.
yeah, exactly. Well, because like Lauren, she could, my daughter, because she was a nurse in a COVID unit, she, in a nurse that's just she's an amazing nurse, and she can flip this switch, and she would go into nurse mode and help take care of my mom. She would step away from it being, and there were times when that was something that I was able to do. And it was when we were in the funeral home and they're pushing things, and I'm
Nope.
nope, we're not doing
Nope.
it like
And you
that.
need to take somebody with
Yes,
you
absolutely.
who is not in that emotional state. I tell you,
Yeah.
do it. I went to a funeral home to bury one of my really close family members.
Mm.
And the first thing you saw was a fire pit, like the furnace with the fire coming up.
Are you even kidding me?
No, that's the first thing I saw. When whoever goes into the home, and that right there just, in your mind, you're thinking, is that where they're gonna just throw them in the fire and burn them? Like, is that how they cremate them? You start thinking that way.
Yeah.
And then they have these two chairs positioned just right to where the only thing you see is that furnace, and then this solemn music going, and now you're like, oh my goodness, if you didn't have any strength inside of you, I'm telling you, you would just open up your bank account and say, take it all and just do whatever you need to do and let it be over with. And they know how to play on your emotions. I'm not against the funeral homes. I'm just saying, be of sound mind when you go into there. Making dealings.
Right.
You have to be.
And there's also a lot of pre-planning that can be done ahead of time, so then you don't have to go through all of those battles, and you can be like, I've got this all pre-planned. This is exactly what we're doing. My brother's father-in-law has his funeral planned all the way out, including what kind of beer is going to be in the keg. Wow. Okay. So some of us really plan, but you can do that. And I encourage that. I tried to talk with my dad about that as well. For him, he's 83. This is the reality. We're all mortal. So yeah, there's a time when I'm going to have to bury my father. And so we have, I'm trying to talk about it, pre-plan it as much as you can, look at your budgets, be very, you talked about the insurance policies, find out exactly what is covered and what is not covered.
And look at the fine print in insurance policies, because if you lapse insurance policy payment, then they can put you on where, a lot of scams have happened with insurance. And they would
Yeah.
say, well, you lapsed, so now, you can't get this certain amount of insurance because it lapsed. What happened to all the money I was paying you before?
Right.
And then because something happened in your job or whatever, or your budgetary situation, now you weren't able to pay that. And then you get back to paying it. Now it's this time period. So you have to have a certain time. So you need to really read the fine print, call your insurance company as much as possible. I have mine on speed dial. She knows me. I know her. It's like we're family. I tell her, look, make sure I'm good with everything. You have to do that, and don't jump from insurance company to insurance company. You need to really stick with at least one insurance company, or maybe two. I have two, but just make sure you know what your policy says.
Yep. Right. Covered. That's super important. Absolutely.
Yeah. So is there anything you'd say before we close out? Anything you might want to, any other tips, anything you might want to say?
I'm trying to think if there were any other things. I want to step back really quick. You had mentioned too, kind of along the lines of the insurance company and stuff like that, is to know, be very aware of, if it's your spouse, or if it's your child, know what the financial situation is. My mom took care of everything.
Oh,
so then my dad was like, I got nothing. I don't, and thankfully my brother is a money guy. Like he can get through all of it. Otherwise I would just be like, I don't know, Dad, let's just go on a trip. I don't know. So we're going on a trip, but he needs to get away, and I need Hawaii, but
Yes,
it's
well,
not because of
congratulations on Hawaii.
yeah, no,
You
it's
need
not
to
because
know
of that.
you need to
Yeah.
distress.
Yeah. Oh,
And I
definitely,
know
yeah.
it's I talk about this on my blog all the time. Self-care.
Yes.
Self-care
This
is so important. You have to. Because you got to get your mind back together. You're not, like you said, you're not going to forget.
Never.
You're going to always carry. She's going to be in Hawaii with you.
Yes.
You all are just going to go and just kind of lay back,
decompress a little bit.
Decompress a little bit.
And because we're going as a family, I mean, I made a joke about hey, the money and stuff, but we're not using mom's money for that. No. But or anything like that. It was, but my daughter and I were able to take a trip with my mom several years ago, once in a lifetime trip to Scotland, and so we have great memories from that. And
she would want you to trip.
Yeah,
she would absolutely.
And so when we started talking about it, and I asked my dad, why don't you come with? No, I'd be a third wheel. And then I finally just said, you know what, actually, you're coming with. You deserve to have some new scenery for a few minutes. You deserve to decompress. You deserve to be able to go to a place that you love, and spend time with your family in doing that. And I think he felt guilty about it at first, but now he's really looking forward to that. I think he just felt like, it was like he was somehow betraying her by going on a trip. Like, oh, I shouldn't be, I'm like, you're not doing anything wrong at all.
Right.
She would tell you to go.
Yeah.
So,
and when you said too, I just want to say this one more thing. Know how to pay bills.
Yes, very much so.
Please do. There are husband and wives, boyfriend and girlfriends, people who live together, and one person is normally paying everything, taking care of all the financial budget in the house and this, that. I have that. I've done that. But I've really expressed and suggest, hey, my counterpart needs to know how to pay bills, needs to know where the checkbook is, what the passcodes are on the electric bill, everything. Got the gas bill, light bill. Need to know how to pay these things, because if something happens to one of your loved ones, you're stuck. Now you're figuring out what am I supposed to do? My dad thought he had to move out of his house he's been living in forever. Yeah. And I'm like, why would you have to move? Because your mom did everything. And I'm like, but this is your house. You don't have to go anywhere. We're just going to make sure that you know how to pay these bills every month. So I had to actually do a literal planner for him. And I went in, I took care of how to pay this bill, what the bill passcodes were. I found out all that information on all of their bills. So he's now in a great spot, of knowing how to pay it, what is going on, because she took care of all the banking accounts and stuff. So I had to make sure his banking account was straight, so it's a lot
It is a lot.
It's a
It's
lot.
overwhelming.
Yeah, and then they say when one person passes, the debt goes on to the next person. Where there's a legal clause where you can have a legal form filled out where that all of their debt is now not your debt. So you look that up on the internet as well. I'm here to give all kind of advice as much as I can because of experience, not
Yes.
because I'm an expert.
Right.
But it's because of experience. I had to look up this document. It's real. Look on a document. I filled it out for my dad. Now he's in clean slate. So just make sure you do your homework and research.
Yep.
Okay. And if you have to sit back and take a breather from being emotional, because when we lose our loved ones, we are emotional. Yeah. There's no way we're going to say, oh, they're gone. Okay, what's next? Let's do something else. No. Right. Yeah. It's a journey, but leave out all the extracurricular substances like alcohol, drugs, this and that. That's gonna only make it worse. Yeah. And you don't want to deteriorate because of that. You will want your loved one to know that you are, gaining glory through what your experiences with them. So keep living on their experiences with them in your life, and don't revert to doing things that'll make your life worse.
Right. Absolutely. Yeah. You can continue to honor their memory by.
I'm not saying honor. That's what I was looking for.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. You can continue. You can honor their memory by
Yes.
by making sure even ahead of time that you've got these things squared away. Have those hard conversations. Nobody wants to sit down and talk about, well, I'm going to die. Well, especially when they're healthy, they go, well, that's not going to happen anytime soon. But boy, we have seen that this year, haven't we? How everything has changed so very much. And so, yeah, please have those hard conversations. Like I said, mom took care of everything, and my dad he didn't know what to do. And that happened with one of my aunts too. Her husband passed away very unexpectedly, and he took care of everything. And now she's like, no, scrambling. Make it as easy on yourself for the future as you possibly can.
Yes.
And I would love to say that anyone that has seen that none of us are ever going to have to go through that, but we know that that's not the case. So if you can prepare these things ahead of time, it will truly help your healing. It won't get in the way of your healing quite so much if you've got it all square.
Well, this was awesome.
Yeah, it was fun. Thank you.
Yes, of course. And I really appreciate you coming on, and you share so much goodness about your personal life. And then you've given others an opportunity to understand what they can do, to prepare as well. And like I said, condolences, to you. I know you're a wonderful person, and you're going to still move on, like you said, honor her in your heart and in your life. So thank you again.
Thank you very much. Thanks so much,
everyone. We're gonna go, but we hope that you all taken in some of this, what we've said, and a lot of what Deb has said about her and losing loved ones and the challenges and going through. So with this segment being saying your goodbyes, some of us have a way to say goodbye, some of us don't. But that's okay, because we just have to know how to deal with our lives going forward. So with that being said, thanks everyone for looking and viewing and listening. And I will talk with you later. This is Netta B.
And Deb Mendoza.
All
Bye,
right.
guys.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.